Hey YouTube, what's up? It's your boy Sean Austin here again from Sean's RABBITRY and producer, back with another rabbit farming video for you guys. Today we're continuing our series on sustainability. Today is part 5 and we're talking about habitat conservation. So stay tuned for more. We'll be right back after the intro. Okay guys, we're back. So today we're talking about conserving your habitat. You know, that's the area immediately in and around your rabbitry. You want to do as much as possible to try and conserve that and be as environmentally friendly as you can. So with that in mind, one of the first things we're going to talk about obviously is using harmful chemicals. Okay, you have to be mindful that everything that you use at some point ends up somewhere in the environment. For instance, the chemicals that you may use to clean cages, to wash down your rabbitry, that goes down the drain, it ends up somewhere. You know, so if you're living in an area like ours where it's primarily a farming area, then any chemicals that you use are going to end up in the natural waterways. And I've seen from time to time when persons have used certain chemicals on their farms that they've killed all the fish in the streams, as well as they've poisoned some of the natural foliage. I personally recall some years ago someone used a chemical known as 2,4-D. I think it's a systemic herbicide. I may not be right, but I know the name is 2,4-D. And for some reason they had an excess amount of it mixed and they emptied it down the drain, and most of the people in our areas plant the dasheen plant along all the waterways to help with the natural filtration, and it killed all of the dasheen plants. You know, so that is an example of harmful chemicals being irresponsibly disposed of and harming the environment. So that's something you want to look at. Another thing, especially in farming areas like this, are the use of chemical fertilizers. Now within agriculture, because things have gotten so commercial, in order to boost production, a lot of farmers invest in chemical fertilizers. However, you should be mindful as to the usage as it relates to the crop that you're growing, and try to use it within reason. Also, as we said in previous videos when we looked at waste management, you have to look at your runoff water, where it's going to go, so you can create constructed wetlands. That's what I'm looking for. Yes, so that you can be able to filter that water and extract as much of the excess nutrients as you can before that water goes on to the natural waterways. Okay, so that's the first one. Another thing you can do is to preserve natural vegetation. In the areas around your rabbitry, try to grow as much natural vegetation as you can. Trees, shrubs, even food crops for that matter. But the whole idea is that you want to create an environment where a lot of the natural wildlife would want to exist. That way you can help with the balance of the entire ecosystem around you. It may even be a good idea to include many different varieties of fruiting trees, okay, because these fruiting trees are going to encourage some of the natural wildlife that live in your area to continue to live there, reproduce, and help to create that balance. We can't look at any one specific animal because there's a balance. Anytime you remove one specific animal from your area, you always tend to see an increase in others, especially the ones that they would have preyed upon. So it's important to respect balance and know that here in Trinidad, people have almost something of a disdain for snakes. Okay, now I think it has a lot to do with partly due to socialization and the areas that you grew up in. You know, if you grew up in an area like Wallafield, where I live, you won't be that bothered by snakes because you would see snakes all the time. Ever since we were small children growing up, we've been seeing snakes and dealing with snakes, and they've never really been an issue for us except in rare occasions where they came into your living quarters or your house. You know, in cases like that, then maybe sometimes you could justify, you know, killing them, for want of a better word. But most times we just relocate them because, I mean, I was about to say there are very few, but I could be more specific. There are only 4 poisonous snakes in Trinidad and Tobago, according to all the data that I've seen. 2 types of mappa pears and the 2 types of corals. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Now, people have this thing for snakes, but I have lived in somewhat of a rural area my entire life. I've gone hunting several times, daytime and nighttime, and I'll be honest with you, of those 4 varieties, I have probably seen a mappa pear once, and well, I've seen quite a few coral snakes over the years growing up. They were common in our area when I was small growing up. But in recent years, I haven't seen, it's been at least a decade since I have actually seen a coral snake in the wild, you know. So I don't really have a fear for snakes because I know most of the snakes that we encounter are non-venomous. So I usually just chase them away or we relocate them, because we have a lot of people in our area that handle snakes and things like that. So these guys will come and hold them and relocate them. So that is something you want to look at, guys. So please don't think that the only option to deal with snakes is to kill them. I just needed to get that in there. Now, coming back to the point at hand here, we'll be talking about preserving natural vegetation. I came across this document. I believe it's taught here as well on the rabbit farmers training course, but I saw it online on another video on YouTube that I was looking at, where they were discussing something called the 3 strata forage system, TSFS, the 3 strata forage system. Basically, this is a system that shows you how you can utilize the land around your house, or in this case your rabbitry, to grow a series of different crops in outward stages that would encourage or allow you, for the most part, to have forage or fodder, as some people say, for your animals year round. It's something I looked at before, and to some extent we've done it because we grow a lot of our own forages here, but I haven't really gone 100% into the system. But by looking at it, you can see that it's something that you can implement simply, and it could be beneficial to you. So I recommend that you pay some more attention to that. You can Google it, search it up, get some more details, and definitely give that a try, because at the end of the day, we're looking at sustainability, and a big part of sustainability, of course, is being able to grow some of the food that you eat as well as what you feed your animals, you know. So that's something to look at, guys. Okay, so again, we're continuing and we're talking about this natural environment that you want to have around your area. So to a certain extent, you would want to create a wildlife friendly area. So there are some things you can do. Now, wildlife doesn't necessarily have to be dangerous wildlife. I mean, it could be birds, you know, by simply growing plants that would encourage even insects, for that matter, because they are beneficial insects like bees, especially in areas where people would want to do production of honey. Bees need nectar, which means they need a lot of flowering and fruiting plants that they can acquire the nectar and then convert into honey. So you're going to want to grow a lot of flowering plants that are going to encourage bees as well as hummingbirds, because hummingbirds, they're quite beautiful and they love flowering plants because I believe it's the nectar from the flowers that they drink. To encourage other birds as well, you can do bird houses. You can build small bird houses and strategically place them around your area. You can do bird feeders. That also encourages a lot of birds to come into your area. You could even do bird baths, you know, so that birds will come there and they will drink and bathe and whatnot, and all of that helps to add to the atmosphere of the place. You know, it's always better to wake up hearing the whistling of birds and things like that, as opposed to car horns and the neighbors' music blaring loudly, things like that. You know, it helps to create a type of mindset, you know, to get you up and about in a positive way. That's why I love living in a rural area. I don't think that I can ever live in a residential area. You know, for me, it's just too many houses, too many people, you know, and to some extent too much confusion, you know. But when you live in areas like this where everyone has large parcels of land and they're farming, you have neighbors, but they're not necessarily that close. So you can, for want of a better word, you can love them from a distance, you know. Yeah, so I really value that peace and quiet that you get when you live in a more rural area where the houses are not that close together. So that's something I really appreciate. Yeah, and I personally would be looking at implementing some of these measures. We already have a large amount of birds here that we keep, and that tends to encourage other birds to come around. But I'm definitely looking at a few bird houses and a few bird feeders and things like that. I have a friend who's a carpenter. I've already spoken to him to build me some cute little bird houses that I'm gonna hang at strategic areas around the property and see if I can encourage even more birds to come into the area. I love birds, you know. Yeah, so that is something you can look at. Okay, now if you're looking at habitat conservation, again we have to look at responsible waste management. We spoke a lot about waste management in part 3 of this series. If you haven't seen that video, you know, I'll link it in the description below. Definitely go check that out. Also, if it's your first time here, please give us a like and definitely subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to hit that little bell so you'll get notifications whenever we release new content. Yes guys, if you're watching this video right now and you're finding this information useful, click like, hit that subscribe button and share it with someone that you think may also benefit from this information. Coming back to my point, responsible waste management is important, and we already covered in that video, so I wouldn't go too deeply into it. But obviously you have to manage all of the waste that's coming out of your farm, the manure, the urine especially. You know, we spoke about constructed waterways to control the wastewater from your farm, you know, things like that. So you can definitely look at that video and see all the points that we touched on that topic. Also, there are other types of waste that will come out of your farm, bags, plastic, all the different things from the different products that you would buy to feed and to maintain your rabbitry. Obviously, it's important that you dispose of these things properly in good bags, and in some cases, especially if you live in residential areas where people have a lot of dogs, you have to take that extra step to secure your garbage from them, because they are going to destroy those bags and spread that garbage all over the place. I'm on a number of agriculture groups, and in recent times I've seen a lot of people talking about the distress that they're experiencing from their neighbors' dogs. You know, I mean, that is a tricky subject, because sometimes as an effect of that loss you may want to retaliate, but you have to remember that a dog is just a dog. There are no bad dogs in my opinion, only bad owners. So you really need to speak to these owners in terms of securing the dogs. But I know that in itself is a tricky subject, because some people simply don't care, you know. But I think in the name of peace, I think you should do your part to protect your garbage from those dogs and their unruly owners. Okay, so that's just something to look at. Nice. Now, another thing to look at obviously is soil erosion. You want to conserve the habitat in your area, so as much as possible you try not to remove all of the grass in a particular area. I know that's the way that conventionally agriculture is done in this country, but it adds to a lot of soil erosion. But in our cases, where we're just looking at the land around our rabbitry, especially if you have hilly and sloping areas around your place, you can utilize certain types of vegetation, certain types of grasses, and what they call cover crops, you know, to help minimize on that erosion. Of course, it would be beneficial if the type of cover crop you're using is something that can also double as forage for your livestock. So I know in North American countries, they will grow things like wheat and rye and barley, oats, you know, things like that, you know, that would help to utilize that parcel of land and at the same time produce a crop for consumption in one way or the other. Here in Trinidad, there are a variety of grasses that you can grow that would help reduce erosion. And it's been a while, but I recall covering a number of those grasses in our video on feeding rabbits. You know, if you haven't seen that video, go check that out. I'll leave the link in the description below. But it's something I'm planning to do a follow-up video on, because I want to be able to show a lot more of the different varieties of the grasses that grow here naturally, or that you can grow that can double as a cover crop to feed your livestock as well. But if we're just talking about feeding, it doesn't just have to be a livestock, it could be yourself. One of the best cover crops you can utilize is corn, because if you've grown corn, you know that corn is planted relatively close together. If you're using a corn planter, these plants are actually about 6 inches apart. So corn is grown quite close together, and they have a nice root system that spreads and tends to hold that soil together. So you're going to get less erosion, and you're going to get corn that you can use for human or animal consumption, as well as the trees, the corn stalks, can also be used as forage for your livestock. So that's another thing you can look at. But remember, the main goal is to conserve the environment. So we want to reduce erosion, but we want to do it in a way that we benefit as well. Nice. Another thing we're going to look at, how you manage water resources. Like I said, guys, I'll keep linking these things, but you should definitely go back and look at all of the videos in this series. If you go to our home channel, you click on videos, you're going to see different playlists, and you're going to have a playlist for sustainability. All the videos in this series are going to be in that folder, so you can view all of them consecutively if you've missed any. Okay, so definitely check that out. But we covered water management, so we're talking about things like using efficient irrigation systems that minimize on the use of water. Also, the collection of rainwater for use in your rabbitry, not just for drinking water, but also to use in cleaning and washing down of your rabbitry. Okay, by utilizing these things, you are going to reduce the strain placed on tap-borne water and that local water supply. If we reduce the amount of water we use, it is going to reduce the demand on those systems that produce tap-borne water. In the end, it's going to be more eco-friendly. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at is to reduce light pollution. What is light pollution? Simple. We know we have natural day and night cycles. So when we use artificial lights, especially when we use them in the night time, we disrupt natural life patterns. So if you have to use lights, in most cases try to use downward facing lights, or to some extent motion detected lights that would come on only when needed and then shut back off. And this way you would avoid disrupting nocturnal wildlife patterns and maintain natural light cycles. Now, light falls under energy efficiency, which we covered in part 4 of this series. You see, everything ties in. It's a whole cycle. No one sustainable method is going to survive on its own. It's a whole circle of things that you have to do continuously, and they all piggyback and benefit from one another. Okay, and since we're talking about light and conservation of light, where it's specific to rabbits, I believe we mentioned this before, but you utilize timers on your lights because rabbits require a specific lighting period for proper production, which is 16 hours of daylight. 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. is the normal daytime here. An additional 4 hours added on by the use of artificial lighting, and then it switches off at around 10 p.m. with the use of a timer. So whether you're home or not, the lights will come off and no one has to be there to actually switch them off. Okay, and just to touch on that specific thing, because someone asked me in the comment section last week if it was possible or if it was wise to leave their lights on all night in their rabbitry and how it would affect their rabbits. You know, and I think I replied to that comment, but we'll just touch on it here. Of course, as I said, all animals, even plants, they have a natural day-night cycle that is optimal for their growth. So anytime you go outside of that, you're going to see differences in performance, either in growth, production, reproduction, and things like that. Where rabbits are concerned, they, like most other livestock animals, they need a period of night where they rest, recover, and it also helps with their natural mating cycles. Light influences that to a certain extent. So if you leave your lights on all night in a rabbitry, to some extent it is going to disrupt the breeding patterns of the rabbits, and in the long run it's going to reduce your productivity. So as the research suggests, aim for 16 hours and don't try to reinvent the wheel. And finally, guys, education. Educate yourself and others, your workers, your family members, even your neighbors to some extent, and encourage them to adopt similar conservation practices, because all of these things are important and they go a long way towards conserving the habitat for everyone. So guys, if I left anything out, feel free to mention it in the comment section and let me know some of the things that you do on your farm to help conserve and protect the natural habitat around you. Okay, if I left anything out, like I said, drop it in the description below. I'll touch on it in a future video. I hope you found this information useful. If you did, please share this video with someone. Like I said again, if you enjoyed it, click that thumbs up, give us a like, and don't forget, if it's your first time here with us, to hit that subscribe button and make sure you hit that little bell. Turn on notifications so you'll know whenever we release new videos. Okay, so guys, thanks for being here. On behalf of my business partner Sean McLean, I'm Sean Austin, Sean's RABBITRY and Aquaponic Produce. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.